Hey everyone, Charlie Vann here. Before we get into the episode, I want to talk to you real quick about a non-profit organization called CC's Angels. CC's Angels is a 501c3 nonprofit that gives survivors a chance to give back to others in need. Have you survived domestic abuse, assault, or illness? Do you want to reach out? CC's Angels raises money for all sorts of causes. They even provide organic sugar scrubs that are survivor made. You can also purchase t-shirts and other merchandise. Check out www.ccsangelsinc.org or follow on Instagram and Facebook. All right, Charlie Vann here with David J. Fielding. David, how are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. I mean, it's gray and wet, but other than that, it's okay.
I know you're here in Texas, correct?
That's correct. Yes.
What part?
I'm northeast of where you are, I believe. I'm in a small town called Paris, Texas.
Oh yeah, my cousin lives out there
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah.
Got a nice junior college out there, Paris Junior College too,
Yes.
and
Yes.
so well, yeah, it's all wet today. Like that's the thing with Texas, you never know. Like what was it, 86 the other day, sunny,
Yeah.
nice. Now it's what 48 and raining.
Yeah. Hopefully, we've moved into the fall weather and put the heat behind us for a while. So
I hope so. Are you a fall person?
I am.
Me too.
I spend a lot of time on the east coast of the country, and I love it over there. So I kind of miss the seasons. Here in Texas, we have two, I think. So, yeah.
Well, because you got your MFA in Pittsburgh, right? In Pennsylvania.
Yes, I did.
So
Yeah.
you probably used to actually getting a real fall and winter out there.
Yeah, and I spent time living around Boston, and it gets chilly there. So I mean, I like that kind of stuff. So yeah.
Oh man, fall in Boston. Whenever I think of fall, I think of Massachusetts, just because I'm a big fan of Good Will Hunting, and and that's the fall movie. So I can only imagine, being around there during fall, or even Pennsylvania, just
Yeah.
those leaves.
Yeah. I mean, I lived fairly close to Salem, Massachusetts, and if you ever get a chance to go up there around this time of year, go. It's fantastic. So
I got to definitely, I guess when it's a little safer to
yeah,
to travel
to
again.
travel.
I know this year is kind of definitely weird, obviously a lot of struggles for you as an actor, and especially even voice actor. How has the times right now affected your work, or you have some upcoming projects you're working on that maybe have to adjust a little bit?
Well, I don't do voice work as much as I used to. I'm a writer these days. I spend a lot of time drafting stories and books and stuff like that. So, I mean, on one hand, it's been kind of great because I've had all this time to sort of like work and create these things. On the other hand, it's been very empty because I've been used to going out to conventions at least once or twice a month, and those things have dried up and disappeared because of safety reasons, and that's fine, that's great. I mean, that's not a big deal, but I do miss going out and seeing fans and stuff like that. So hopefully, when things get better and things get more under control, we'll be able to do those things again. But yeah.
And I've seen a few virtual conventions going on. Have you had a chance to do some of those? And what do you think about the whole virtual platform right now?
Yeah, I mean, I've done two. We did GalaxyCon live twice, and that was such a great time because those guys are very professional. Everything was handled very, very well, and uh, it's almost the same as a Q&A section sequence at a regular convention, except for all of us to be on a stage in front of an audience. It's just us in front of the camera like we are here, and it's a little bit more. I don't want to say intimate, but I mean it kind of shortens the distance between the person and the audience because this seems very close. It's just you and me, and we're having this conversation, and that seems much more personal than being on stage and separated by a certain amount of distance and stuff. So I really enjoyed them. And I was wondering, would that become like the norm? Would you have much more of a one-on-one personal interaction with somebody that you admired or saw on a TV show or something like that. Um, and maybe that becomes more of a norm. Who knows? But we'll see. We'll see.
Well, it's interesting to see if more even come back and try to find some like occupancy, spacing, safety protocols. I know a lot of museums are back now and trying to adapt. So do you think that's a possibility as well, or do you think conventions are just too big in order to really do that?
Um, with the social distancing and everything like that, because conventions were just filled with crowds of people weaving in and out amongst some other, going to different booths and checking out all this stuff. I don't know, man. That seems rather difficult to sort of
Mhm.
police, as far as
Yeah.
like keeping everybody safe. Uh, I would much rather prefer that we make sure that we get this thing under control, that there's a vaccine out there, and people are safe and healthy, rather than sort of risking not only their own health but the health of others and stuff. So I know it's tough. I know a lot of people are um, tired and fed up about having to shelter in place and all that kind of things, but I'm trying to do my part, step up,
Mhm.
and think about other people rather than just myself. And but I mean, it is what it is. We just try to do what we do.
Well, I think it's definitely all about adapting, and even what we're doing right now, through Zoom. I mean, this has been a great, platform for interviews and of course meetings as well. So, as going to you as a writer, how has it helped you in some way too, to like for your writing and collaborating?
Um, like I said, I mean, it's given me a wealth of opportunity as far as my time. Whether or not I've managed that time very well, that's all on my shoulders. I mean, I do have my PlayStation, and I do have a variety of number of games that I like to play. There's also been some upheavals in my family and personal life that I've had to
Mhm.
deal with. So. Again, it comes down to time management. How well are you able to manage your free time? And some days the bear eats you, and some days you eat the bear. It's uh,
That's an interesting
however
phrase.
you're
I have
able,
not I
to
have
do
not
it.
heard that phrase before, but that's a good phrase.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to say that I've used it well
Mhm.
and been productive, but there are many days where I end the day and think I did absolutely nothing today and feel horrible about it. But again, that's part of the Western ideal of
Mhm.
you should be working, you should be doing something, you should
Mhm.
be productive, and we forget to be a little bit kinder with ourselves
Mhm.
as far as uh, how we view our productive time. Some days you just need to have that 7 hour meditative period where you're
Mhm.
not doing much and not feel bad about it, and
Mhm.
try not to let others make you feel bad about it either, which is hard to do here in the United States, because we always get that sort of "you should be working"
Yeah.
kind of thing going on,
Yeah.
and we forget that life uh, throws curveballs at us,
Mhm.
and we need to sort of like handle those with as much grace as possible. But um, for me, it's been fine. I'm pretty much an introvert anyway.
Mhm.
I have that in common with Zordon. We were stuck in a tube, and I'm
Zordon's been
just
distancing from the get-go.
for
Yeah.
10,000 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's the master of social
Yeah.
distancing. He's
He's been at home
but
for a
I
long
mean,
time.
yeah, I mean, I've been trying to make the most of it
Mhm.
as best I can. So yeah.
Well, going, you mentioned video games. First, what are you playing? And second, what do you think about the writing and the storytelling about today's games? I mean, it just seems like a bunch of masterpieces, and it has grown so much head and shoulders.
Yeah, I mean, after I left LA and I moved back to the East Coast, I got involved in the gaming industry.
Mhm.
I did QA for a while, and then I got hired to do voiceovers and design work for a number of gaming companies on the East Coast. And being in the industry, seeing how games get put together, and how much work goes into them, and how big some of the teams are that create these games, it's an amazing collaborative effort to see. the power that these computers are able to do, and what seemed to be very simple back when I was growing up, because I grew up with Pong, which is just
Yeah.
one paddle on this side and a paddle over here and a ball going back and forth, and that kept us entertained for hours. And now I play games like Red Dead Redemption 2,
Oh,
which is
awesome.
this epic Western, uh, very immersive world that you could just get lost in for hours. It's just mind blowing how these things can suck you into these alternative worlds, and the amount of time and effort and writing that goes into these. Because there was a debate when I was in the gaming industry about, can a video game make you cry?
Hmm.
Because we were just always discussing about, our video games art, or where do they fall in the spectrum of entertainment? Are they just momentary distractions, or is there some sort of deeper value for these things? And I always came down on the side that they do have deeper value, they do have deeper meaning, and they are an art form into their own. Because um, we go to the movies because we like to be told stories through a visual medium that sort of pulls us in and makes us forget about the real world for a couple of hours. And video games do the same thing, but that time that you lose could be anywhere between 40 to 100 hours of time that you immerse yourself into someplace different. Um, and that takes a lot of energy and effort to make those things happen. And I do think that have been moments in games, especially these new cinematic type immersive games, that you can bring an audience or a game player almost to tears. I mean, I've played Ghosts of Tsushima, and there are some cinematic sequences in that, or gameplay sequences in that are very emotional. They are very powerful in that way. So um, I enjoy video games. I've been playing them for, gosh, 25 years or more. Uh, Sometimes as a hobby, sometimes as a job. But I'm looking forward to Cyberpunk 27.
I am too. I
Uh,
am too. I can't wait. That trailer a year ago just gave me goosebumps. And
yeah,
how do you
I
not
mean,
like
I,
Keanu
I
Reeves?
played I played the tabletop
Yeah.
RPG back in college, and so trying to be able to immerse myself in this sort of neo noir techno dystopia is going to be a lot of fun, and I look forward to that. But I also, again, time management, I've got to put that away because I've got books and stuff I need to write. So I have stories of my own I would like to tell, rather than, to move through somebody else's story. But I like them. I enjoy them a lot. So.
Well, you mentioned Red Dead. I still need to play Red Dead Redemption 2, but man, that first Red Dead I think is one of the best between movies, television, video games, modern Western tell
Yeah.
that is out there in a medium. I mean, talk about like a motion picture in itself. I mean, just
Yeah.
the storytelling, the writing, the visuals of it was great.
Yeah. I mean, the second one improves on the visual quality. It's very easy to get pulled into that world, and just all the different side quests, and just you can go on a hunt in that game, and that becomes an epic story that you tell friends over a beer. I did
Yeah.
this and I did that, and it was amazing. It has nothing whatsoever to do with hunting down an outlaw or anything like
Yeah.
that. It's
The
just
side
like,
quests are so great.
yeah, it's just amazing that the worlds are so realized
Mhm.
that you wonder what's going to happen 10 years from now. Am I actually going to be able to open my door and actually step into that world? We're getting to that point where the line between fiction and reality blurs every day. I mean, not to get too existential or metaphysical on anybody, but there's a lot of talk out there about what's fake and what's real, and
Mhm.
that those lines are getting blurred and blurred every day, and you there you may find times when your question is like, am I playing this, or is this playing me? What is going on here? So it just raises a lot of very very interesting questions. So.
Just a the power of the medium of video games. But you feel like you can definitely connect to some of these characters. I'll tell you one game. I don't know if you played BioShock.
Yeah,
BioShock
yeah,
1 for sure.
yeah,
It's one of my all-time favorite games. Just, I mean, Rapture itself is a
yeah,
character. I mean,
yeah.
it's so great.
That's the thing. I mean, you go into some of these cities, and like Night City in Cyberpunk
Mhm.
and Strawberry or Valentine in Red Dead Redemption. I mean, those places are characters. You go in there and you know them. You know where this thing is, and um, you like to visit them. You like to go. Let me go see my old friend Valentine and see what's happening there today. So I mean, I get what you're saying as far as that's concerned, but I mean, and the fact that that's sort of a shared experience, especially like the online components. I played a lot of massively multiplayer games with friends, World of Warcraft,
Oh yeah.
EverQuest sort of thing, and in Red Dead Redemption Online. I mean, I have friends there that we ride around, so we're sharing this Western experience together. And there's always moments where it's like, oh my gosh, did you see what just happened? And from their point of view, it looks a little bit different from yours, but everybody saw that horse go off the cliff or whatever, and just share those experiences. It's great.
Well, and even with the Batman games, which I think are really good. I mean, Gotham becomes alive. You just want to explore around as Batman. I know and they have great side quests too, especially when you interact with like the Riddler and that. But just Gotham itself becomes
Yeah,
part of this great character arc. So,
yeah,
what video games are doing now, just even with this setting, is just, I mean, it's so remarkable, and it really gets you sucked in.
yeah, yeah. The immersive quality is becoming more and more lifelike, and that's very awesome and also very scary, because at what point do you unplug the headset and come back to this and like, oh man, my real life sucks.
Yeah, you're like, I don't know. I just want to be like Total Recall or the Matrix here. And that's the
Yeah,
question. Are we in a simulation? I don't know. That's always the theory. Or what is it? Ready Player One. I mean, how
yeah.
close are we to that world in a way? I mean, that we're all just so plugged in virtually, whether it's through a game or something.
Yeah, I'd like to think that we're a lot closer than we realize. It's
Hmm.
there are some people out there doing some really amazing things
Hmm.
with these machines that practically everybody has now. Everybody has a computer in their house, and the fact that the processing power keeps going up, and the technical artists and engineers that are working on these things are becoming more and more detailed, more and more refined, and again, creating realities out of reality.
Hmm.
And I've always imagined that we could get to a point where you could pick and choose where you wanted to live
Hmm.
for a certain amount of time. It's like I spent so many hours playing Skyrim that I actually wanted to live there. It's like one of those places where there's just so much detail to the world that you just want to explore every nook and cranny about the whole thing. And these modern games do that more and more and more. And uh, I'm a collector. That's how the kind of gameplay that I like. I love quests that say, "Hey, you need to go and collect 5 or 6 of these things," and I will scour the map trying to find all these little things, because to me that's very fulfilling in a way.
Yeah.
It's very meditative, and I get to interact with the world rather than interact with
Hmm.
players or NPCs or whatever. And just exploring and uncovering parts of the map that I
Hmm.
haven't seen before is just very thrilling for me. So I enjoy the collection aspect of games, and I'm kind of keeping my fingers crossed that there's one in Cyberpunk. But yeah, I mean, I just find them fascinating, uh, and the amount of hours that these designers and creators put into thinking about how they're going to solve these problems, how they,
Hmm.
what if the player does this, or what if the player does that, and leaving it open enough so that the experience is unique from player to player. We may go through the same quest
Hmm.
together, but your experience of it is going to be different from my experience of it, because you may have gone up the ladder and I may have gone around the corner or however, and we both accomplish the goal, but we got there from a different way, and so that's very appealing. That's very exciting, and these guys put in so much work, and I remember poring over documents and writing and rewriting dialogue for quest givers and stuff like that. So I know the amount of work that these guys do, and appreciate this, the effort that they put in. And anytime that I watch a video review of the game, and they kind of complain about this aspect or that aspect, I'm like going, you have no idea how long these guys tortured themselves over whether or not they were going to include that or cut it out. So I always take those videos with a grain of salt, or at least I try to, and always try to come down on the developer side of, give them a break for the thousands and thousands of hours that they've worked on these things to make them alive. But yeah.
When you mentioned World of Warcraft, what class are you? Are you elf? Are you mage? I always go with the elf side.
Gosh, it's been so long.
I love the seasons. I love that there's Halloween, that there's Christmas too.
Yeah,
I think that's so
cool. The night elf. I remember playing the night elf, and I was a night elf hunter, so because I liked the sniping aspect of it. I was also a night elf druid because I loved the ability to change into a different animal shape. That was very cool. I love the travel in that too, where you would like take the eagle and fly from one end of the map to the other. It was just really immersive, and I enjoyed that so much. So yeah.
Well, going back to your being a writer, and you even mentioned meditation, I feel like the two can go together just in the sense of that escape, that release. What do you do in order to get into that zone, get into that writing process?
That's a great question. Whenever I've reached a point where I get like writer's block, where I don't know where to go next with the story or whatever, I always just try typing, just to sort of get my fingers moving and just feeling the keyboard underneath my fingers. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, but it's sort of that repetition, that Zen idea of you need to chop wood and carry water. And everything else will just sort of take care of itself. And that's the sort of mindset that I try to keep most of the time, of not concerning myself with whether or not the story was good enough or it was something that anybody would want to read. It was like, this is the little grain of an idea that my brain has, and I need to sort of like trudge through the little grunt work in order to get that done. I mean, it's a lot like sculpting in a way that there's a beautiful piece of art under this block of stone, and I'm just removing all the parts to get to it. And that's really sort of what writing is, of trying to find the right words to put them together to sort of remove that little piece of stone that shows you, oh, this is where the story is. And that's how I try to think about it. And I listen to a lot of cinematic soundtracks. The wordless music in the background sort of like inspires me, feeds me creative impulses and stuff. So I listen to a lot of that. That helps. Taking walks out in the fresh air and just sort of remembering that it's not just four walls and a roof. Writing is a very isolating thing. I mean, you're in it just by yourself. Unless you're in a writer's room for like a TV show where you have 5 or 6 people in a room and you're all trying to get through a short rom-com scene or something like that. That's a different environment altogether. But if you're alone writing books or short stories, I mean, it's just you in your head. And that can be very isolating, and you have to remind yourself to get out and to experience life if you're going to write about it. So those are the things I try to remind myself.
Do you ever have that moment when you're out walking, you're like, I got to go back now. I got to write this down. I got to write this down.
You don't know how many times that I've come up, that's it, that's the answer. And then, on my way home, I got to stop at the store and do this. And then when you get out, what was I thinking about? I had the answer. It was right there. Damn it, I forgot my notepad. That's happened on a number of times. But eventually my subconscious will remember it at like 4 a.m, and then I'm up and I'm writing on the keyboard. So yeah.
Is it ever hard to like just sit through a movie and TV show and not like think of a possible story just because you're in that mode of watching something creative?
Um, it depends on the environment I'm in. If I'm at the movie theater and I'm stuck in the darkness watching the screen, those moments don't come until afterwards.
Hmm.
If I'm at home and I'm watching something on Netflix or on Vudu or Prime, Amazon Prime or whatever, I have the ability to shut those things off and divert my attention to whatever sparked the idea.
Hmm.
Um, and I find myself lately these days having sort of like ADD with any sort of TV or movie that I have on my screen because I do have the ability to pause it.
Yeah.
And I'm not really sure if that's a good thing or not because I'm not getting the full meal of it. I'm consuming it in little bits and chunks, and I know these movies and these shows were put together to sort of like be consumed in one sitting, so that you could be entertained in that way. But because we have the ability to pause things now and swipe them away and move on to something else and then come back to it, we've created this extra problem for ourselves where we have so much entertainment to choose from that the moment we get bored or something catches our let me go look that up. What did that word mean? And then you go down a rabbit hole of where that word came from, and and then it's like an hour and a half later, like, oh yeah, I remember I was watching that movie. I need to go back to that. That's very interesting that we have the ability to consume our entertainment in that way, rather than what it used to be when I was growing up, which is like the TV programs were only on at a certain time. You could only watch them Thursday nights at 7 p.m. And if you missed it, there was no reruns for like another 6 months. It didn't come back on until the summer. Now it's like on demand and live entertainment. It's like, oh, what do I want to choose? Oh, I've seen that 7 times, or I've seen that 8 times. And, oh, let me start this. Yeah, that's not what I thought it was. Pause. And it's very strange, this plethora of entertainment that we have. And we're kind of spoiled by it in a way.
Well, I mean, that is true. And I'm interested to see what happens with the theater experience, moving forward. Luckily we do have online streaming as far as another alternative entertainment during these times, but I'm intrigued to see where we head next. Obviously I would love to see movie theaters obviously back once everything is safe, but there is that we're kind of in a society of convenience too, where, like you said, you can pause, you can cook a meal, you don't have to wait in concession lines. Yeah. People have their own theater set up now, they have their big screen TV. So with on demand and that, where do you see I know it's hard to really say, but where do you kind of see movie theaters going from here?
I'm not really sure where they're going to go. I do know that there's been sort of a resurgence and a reinterest in drive-ins.
Yeah.
And I think those could make a great comeback because you're isolated in your vehicle. Mm-hmm. And I know some of these more high-end drive-ins, they actually do what like Alamo Drafthouse was doing. They serve meals. They bring you an entire meal to your car. So and again, like you were talking about, it's one of those convenience things where we're addicted to convenience. Things that if it makes it easier for us, we love that kind of thing. And it used to be if you go to the movies theaters, you could get a popcorn and maybe a drink, and that would be it. But now it's like, oh well, I think I'll have the enchilada plate, and you can order this full service 3-course meal while you're watching your favorite Marvel movie or something. Yeah. That's pretty wild. But who knows? I mean, we could go back to the old way of there would be VIP booths in the theater that you could buy for a more expensive ticket or something like that would guarantee your social distance and sort of thing, and make it much more of a separate experience. But probably like you, I do miss going to the movie theater and sitting in the dark and getting lost in a visual story for 2 hours. I really enjoyed that. Still enjoy that. I mean, if it ever comes back, but again, it takes away my ability to pause it, and that's something I think is great because it forces me to focus.
Yeah.
And uh, I need more of that focus in my day-to-day life, I think. Again, time management. Need to
Well,
work it
it's
out.
a great escape. I mean, going into a movie theater, the trailers start, you're excited for that, it just gets you ready, sets the tone, and then that move the opening credits of the movie starts, and you're just like so excited. So I miss that, but I will say, I'm also excited what we have on demand and streaming. Netflix has had a lot of great, movies, and even Amazon as well. So I would like to have it all. I guess you could say, kind of have all means. What was the last movie you saw? And with some theaters bringing back old movies, if you could safely sit in a theater, what old movie would you love to see?
The last movie that I saw in the theater was Birds of Prey, the Margot Robbie Harley Quinn movie, which I enjoyed. I'm a fan of comic books and superheroes, so I've seen a lot of them. But that was the last movie that I saw in an actual theater. Um, and if I could go back to the theater and they would play a movie of my choice, gosh. Um, it would have to be something epic, something of grand scale. I'm not too much into dramas and stuff like that. I like epic type movies, things that have a big action adventure type component to it. I like to be transported rather than sort of cerebral in my film going. Uh, Oh, I would love to see Kurosawa's Ron on film on the screen again. I saw that in the early '80s, and it's such a beautiful. The colors in that film are just so vibrant, and to see that on the big screen again would be awesome. Uh, Such a good movie, really, really good. Yeah, that would be the one that I would choose.
Well, I have to talk about Zordon because Power. The shirt I'm wearing, this not on coincidence. Blue Ranger.
Awesome.
I mean, Power Rangers. I've been a long time martial artist, so Power Rangers is a big,
Yeah, right.
reason for that, and of course for many people involved with martial arts. 1993, episode 1, Day of the Dumpster,
Right.
started such a phenomenon. Did you, I mean, you might have asked this question before, but I mean, your thoughts from that first episode and where Power Rangers is today? I believe, what, 27 different seasons now?
Yeah.
Just talk about that whole experience.
Yeah, I mean, at the time it was just sort of a job. Uh, and I had my experience on the show was a little bit bittersweet because they only filmed my character one time, and then they, like the Japanese footage that they cobbled together to make the episodes, they just used my footage over and over, and I would just go in to do voices after that. So um, I did feel very much like the character because I was very separated from everybody else. Whenever I would go in to do the voices, none of the actors were there. It was just me looking at the screen, which is one of the reasons why Zordon's mouth was fudged out most of the time, so they didn't have to match the lips with the lines that I was delivering. um, so it was very interesting to be a part of something like that, and because I grew up watching Ultraman and Spectreman, I was already a fan of the Sentai and Kaiju kind of program that was being put together. So I understood what it was. I got the excitement over robots fighting big rubber monsters. I thought that was great. But again, at the time, it was to me at least, it seemed like, well, this is going to be a Saturday morning cartoon that's going to last for about a year, and then everybody will forget about it because we hadn't had the pop culture explosion yet. There weren't such things as a pop culture convention. I think there were Star Trek conventions at the time, and there was a great interest in Star Wars merchandise and stuff like that. But there weren't all these places all over the country where you would go and meet people that liked the same thing you liked, and there weren't all these toys and stuff on the
Mhm.
stuff. Although Power Rangers really changed that, because the show was created around these toys,
Mhm.
and the toys hit the shelves and it blew up.
Oh yeah.
So by the time that first Christmas came around in 1993, that was the first time I thought, oh wow, this show is going to be big. But by that time I had already left LA. I was no longer a part of the show,
Mhm.
and I had moved on. And uh, it became one of those interesting things. It was like an anecdote that I could tell people. It's like, oh yeah, I was on a kids TV show back in the early '90s, and that was just something I could tell people at parties. But it wasn't until Facebook came along that I started to get more and more messages from people. Weren't you the guy that played Zordon? And I was like, yeah, yeah. What's going on with that? I thought that ended. And that's when I realized, no, that thing did not end.
It
It's
did
still
not.
out
It
there.
is still going
And
strong.
was just blown away by how many different iterations of it there were. And when I was finally asked to attend conventions and stuff, and getting to meet different Rangers from different seasons, and being welcomed back as part of the family, was just really, really a lot of fun. But at the time when I was shooting it, it was like, oh, it was just a little job that paid me this, and
Mhm.
I did that, and there were other things that I was sort of like interested in, or whatever. But it's an amazingly humble experience to be a part of something so big that it's gone around the world so many times, 40 different countries, different translated into different language. People know the theme song in Indonesia, and um, it just blows my mind that on a daily basis I'm reminded, oh yeah, millions of people know who you are, and that's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah.
I mean, I remember racing home as a kid to watch the Green Ranger episode. It was recorded, and just
Yeah.
how exciting that was. And then, of course, when Tommy eventually becomes the White Power Ranger as well. I mean, just this franchise is what it's just done, worldwide, as you just mentioned, and once again, even with the martial arts, probably got a lot of kids involved with such a great discipline as well. What is your relationship today with a lot of the cast? I know you've worked with Karen Ashley, with your last film, The Order, and Austin St. James as well, St. John as well, and David Yost. So how's everyone doing now?
As far as I know, everybody's fine. I don't see them as often as
Mhm.
I would like, because of where we are with
Yeah.
COVID and stuff like that. But we all have a great relationship. Anytime that we're at a convention together, we always find time to have dinner and catch up, and um, tell stories to one another. And I don't know what it is about the Power Rangers casting process, but they always seem to get the right people for
Mhm.
the parts, and they're all big-hearted superheroes in their own right. They'll they always take the time out to meet the fans and to
Mhm.
be personable, and they really enjoy the one-on-one interactions with everybody. And to me, that's the legacy of Power Rangers,
Mhm.
is that it's this incredibly positive thing that just keeps giving. It ripples outward in so many different ways, and it brings us together, rather than sort of like puts you in this category or that category or that category. It says, no, 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 we're all sort of together on this, which was a major theme of the show, right? There was these five kids who said, I'm going to stand up for you, and you're going to stand up for me. We're going to do this together. And I think that's the thing that really gives the show its longevity, is the idea that together we are more, which was the theme for the movie in 2017. I think they really nailed that on the head. Um, that's what's really humbling about it, is that I'm a part of this big giant warm hug that goes around the world.
I think
So I
we
mean,
can use
that's
more
the
of
way I
that
look at it.
right now. I
Huh?
think we can use more of that
Yeah,
giant
yeah,
warm.
exactly.
Well, and when you talk to fans of this show, and I know just even having conversations with friends of mine, everybody can find that one Power Ranger they relate to, that they kind of gravitate to. Zordon aside, but when you're just looking in, what Power Ranger relates to you the most?
Yeah, I get asked that a lot.
Yeah.
Who's my favorite Ranger? And the honest answer is I don't have a favorite
Yeah.
Ranger.
That's probably
Um,
fair.
yeah, I think they're all
Hmm.
right for who they are or whatever. And my answer to that sort of question is I always identified with Billy.
Yeah.
First of all, because I wore glasses in high school.
Hmm.
I wasn't bullied in high school, but there
Hmm.
were moments where I was picked on a couple of times, so I understood that aspect
Hmm.
of it. I was into nerdy things. I liked D&D and going to the library and figuring out things. I liked big words. And the Triceratops was my favorite dinosaur as a
Oh,
kid.
nice.
So I identified with Billy a lot. And David's a great guy. He's
Hmm.
such a he really connects with the fans, and he really enjoys experience, having experiences with them. So seeing David is always great. And, we share the same name, David and David, so that's awesome. Um, but I mean, there are so many different characters in the Ranger legacy.
Hmm.
My favorite villain is Goldar. Just
Yeah.
just the way he looks is just awesome. I wish he had looked more like that in the 2017 movie, but
Hmm.
like Magna Defender is an amazing character. The design of him. I look at all the Sentai designs over the years from the early 70s to 2020, and they just keep coming up with iterations of these uniforms that just jump out at you, and you're like, "Oh, that is amazing!" Why didn't we think of that? And it just continues to grow from there. And what you were talking about earlier about what's the future of our entertainment going to be
Hmm.
like? Um, I think Power Rangers really sort of like was one of those first shows that sort of started mashing things together, and the word morph became part of our lexicon because of that show, and and I think that's where our multimedia entertainment is going in a way, is that we're going to see more and more mashups happening of you're going to take this aspect from this entertainment and that aspect from this entertainment and putting together and create something that's something new. So it's kind of very interesting how we're going in a circle about talking about entertainment and what its value is and where it comes from and where it's going. So um, those are the kind of questions that keep me up at night.
I mean,
But yeah,
it's a good thing to kind of think about. I mean,
yeah.
because everything changes. Everything adapts as well, which the Power Rangers always had to do in
Well,
that in
when
that
I was
show.
growing up, we had to sort of wait for our
Hmm.
entertainment. We would get like announcements like the 1978 Superman movie with Christopher Reeve was going to come
Yeah,
out on this date. That was
yeah,
the only time you get to see it. And now we've moved into an era where it's like you have video on demand. I can watch it whenever I want to. Um, and we also have the ability to create entertainment with our phones
hmm
and then upload that immediately to the interweb, and you'll get 1,000 likes or 500 followers, and they'll share it, and your entertainment that you created at your home with a little device that has more power in it that's sent to the astronauts to the
yeah.
moon, you've created something completely on your own in your living room, and now it's being shared with thousands of people, and that's amazing. That's fantastic.
Well, everybody can be their own filmmaker now. Even
Yeah.
look at like, of course, TikTok, but even with Instagram Reels, I mean, just everyone is a kind of a journalist as well. I mean,
Yeah.
just the way technology is going, and you definitely have to just kind of embrace it because there's so many good discoveries, and especially for creators, like yourself and writers. I mean, it's got to just be an awesome right now to be kind of part of this evolution. And going back to the Power Rangers, they kind of were ahead of their time before Apple Watch. They had their own
Yep.
watches.
They had the
So,
communicators. Yeah. Yeah.
so the communicate, so they kind of saw the future
Which
a little
again
bit.
is an extension from
Yeah.
like Dick Tracy and
Yeah,
Star
that's
Trek.
true.
That started way back in the
Mhm.
30s and stuff like that. So, um, uh, yeah, it's all Zordon's fault. He got those kids together and changed everything. So yeah, way to go,
those
Zordon.
those pre-millennials. Hey,
Right.
it was teenagers,
Yeah.
And it all starts with teenagers. Well, I could say my long birthday wish is still to be a Power Ranger. I'm still holding out hope.
Hey man, if I had the ability to connect with the morphing grid, there would be lots more Rangers out there. So
I think we can use more Power Rangers, just kind of the positive vibes that they always have given, and even I mean it's all about community too. You always see in episodes, and well, even the '95
yeah.
movie, them working within the community. Well, David, I want to thank you for taking your time here today. First, where can people find you, and two, what's next?
Well, they can find me on Twitter at David J. Fielding or on Instagram at DJFielding_Zordon. If they also search for Zordon in Facebook, they could probably find my Zordon Facebook page. What's next for me is my first Lincoln Bright novel came out in February. The second one will come out the following February, and I'm busy working on books 3 and 4. And that's it right now. Just sort of typing away at the keyboard, telling stories, and playing video games. So there you go.
And with your book, they can find it anywhere where bookstores or
Right now, you can
online.
find it on Barnes and Noble. It's
Barnes and
supposed to
Noble.
be on Amazon on Amazon soon. And I need to, tap my publisher on the shoulder and say, "Hey, man, what's going on with that?" But yeah, I mean, there's links on my social media to where people can find that. So yeah,
Well, thank you again, David. You take care, and it was a pleasure, man.
it was my pleasure.